Hello there, how you all doing? Last video that I uploaded yesterday, I got some very nice messages. Very nice to see. A lot of them were going over people that have gone, that people miss, friends of theirs that had gone, that were considered heroes. It was lovely to read some of the stories. I got in emails and private messages. It was very nice. Some of the comments were pretty good as well. There was one of them, a guy called Gerald Bell. I think he's a new sub. Nice bloke, by the sounds of things, ex-army. But he suggested that I make he called it the system for dummies. Huge. So I was sort of awake, but not quite getting there yet. I thought it was a damn good idea. I did actually make a series on the system a long while ago, and it was terrible, absolutely awful. When I look back on it now, I was just starting making content, and I wasn't used to speaking on camera very well. And so I thought, yeah, I think I'll do another one, because it didn't really get many views either. I think the most it got were about 20. This is like 4 years ago now, I think. Anyway, so yeah, I thought I'd start it off with this little prologue video, just to set it up before we do the first episode. Many of you who've listened to me and watched me for a while and talked to me for a while will have heard what I'm about to say countless times already, on numerous occasions. So I'm sorry if you've heard this before and it's annoying, but for those who don't, the system at its core operates on one equation, and that's 95% true, 10% lies. So let that sink in. I'll repeat that. 95% true, 10% lies. This isn't bad mathematics. This is a representation of the mentality and the ethos behind everything that the system does. Because everything they do and everything they control, this philosophy permeates into them and filters out into everything else. So once you understand what 95% true, 10% lies represents, you understand that, you understand the system. And you can begin to work from there, because that will help you see the world completely different. I'll give you a minute to think outside the box, because that's what you have to do. It's not a maths problem. It's more esoteric than that. Every piece of information that we get, every book that we read, every film that we watch, every documentary that we watch, every university course that we go on, every bit of academia, all work on this principle also. And it essentially means this: they will give you a certain degree of truth within everything, but they will also fit fiction into that as well, and the ratio between the truth and the fiction is always more truth than the can be anything from as little as 51, 52% truth and the rest lies, or 100% truth, no lies. But it's always more truth than it is lies every single time. And they do this because truth vibes right. Yeah, you can feel truth in a way. If something sounds truthful, it feels truthful. And when it covers up deception, it masks it completely almost sometimes. And so lies begin to feel like truth that are coming from them. This entire deceptive game that they play is, in their minds, necessary to their survival. They're constantly in fear of being caught out, and that resulting in their death. This is caught out by us, caught out by their enemies, caught out by their gods. So it's a survival instinct, it's a survival mechanism. And this fear, they project down to us. So we feel their fear, we react to their fear, and we manifest their fears. Many people, they assume that the system hates us, hates humanity, hates the people, hates the common people. And I've heard many people say that. I'll just sit there and drink my tea. Their attitude towards us is actually worse than that. They're indifferent. They don't care. They don't care about us. They don't really think about us much. We're just a tool, very often, to get to what they want, to achieve what they want. Or we're just a hindrance sometimes, an annoyance. One that has to be put up with. Other times, we're like farm animals that they harvest. Be that our blood, our energy, our organs, our youth, our time, our money. And in that respect, they treat us as a farmer would a cow, a dairy cow, or a chicken, a battery hen. A farmer doesn't love his dairy cows, doesn't love his cows, but he doesn't hate them either, but he still looks after them, still takes care of them, still cultivates them. And that's the same way the system looks at us, in that same sort of regard. So that's why they're so cold towards us. You see, hate implies emotion, an emotional response. They needed to feel something to actually hate us. But that's not the case. They don't feel anything. They're indifferent. Like I said, that's worse. This series, we're going to go through everything. I I say everything, there's certain things that I can't tell you. It's not because I don't know them, it's because I just can't. But there is a lot I can. We've been under the spell of these people for centuries. These guys have been around for just as long as we have, but they're not the same as us. They're not lizards. They're not aliens. Still human, but different. The further back you go in history, the more the lines start to blur between humanity as we are now and what we believe were alien forces or gods. We're going to cover some very difficult concepts for a lot of people to get their heads around. To do with religion, to do with how they control certain people through particular religions, how the societal framework that they live under is shaped, starting with the 3 pillars. All societies have as a foundation 3 certain things that are absolutely essential and necessary for any society to function and also to flourish. But you can also use them as a tool of control if you know how to invert what you do. And these 3 pillars are your legal framework. This can be anything from solving disputes between people to solving disputes between nations, nation states or tribes. So this is politics, but at the same time, law and politics go hand in hand, as everyone knows, because politicians make laws and we have people that enforce those laws, so the enforcement also comes under that banner, law and enforcement politics. It's all one banner. The next is trade, not just between each other, but also between different tribal peoples, nations, etc. The trade and finance also go together. So you have law, finance, then you have spirituality or religion, which determines your morality. This morality influences the laws, these laws influence trade. They all tie together. Do you see where I'm going? Everything else stems from there after that point. So all your education, all your medicine, all your science, all your academics, everything, all stems from those 3 pillars. All builds from there. So when you control those 3 aspects of society, you control everything. And this is what the system has a stranglehold over. This is how they can control the world. This is how, in actuality, 9 people can control the world. From the 3 senior families, the Council of 9. Yes, there's 13 families that I give you a list of, but they're just one level from the top, so to speak. And 3 of those families in that list are the actual upper echelon, and they have 3 members of each of those 3 families, which is a father, the mother, and the heir apparent. and they control everything else. Those three. Why do they have three? Why is there nine? Why is it a father, mother and child? The original Trinity, from the time of our primordial gods, was a representation of the father, a representation of the mother, and a representation of the heir apparent, of the child. Now, this Trinity, these three aspects of that Trinity, also represent law, finance, spirituality. Law being the father, finance being the mother, because it was the mother that always held the purse strings for the family. The father earned the money, the mother went and spent it on everything that was essential for the family. And then the heir apparent would inherit that. And they were the innocent. The innocence of spirituality, that's what they do. And they are infused with the morality of the father and the mother. So you have father, mother, child, which are also law, finance, religion. It goes deeper. There are also three aspects of a human being: mind, body, soul. Or mind, emotion, spirit. You have your egotistical mind, you have the emotional centre, which is your heart, and you have your spirit. Your mind, because it's logical, is linked to the father and the law. And then you have your mother, which is linked to emotion and also finance, and you have the child, which is linked to spirituality and the spirit centre. So each of these families represent an aspect of that Trinity. It's also why there's always three men. It's always the father, mother and child of those families that are on that council. We'll basically get into the ins and outs and the history of why all that is in a future episode, because we're getting ahead of ourselves here. But one thing you need to know is that these three aspects are made manifest as the implements of our control in our physical reality by three states within the state. Now, if you don't know what a state within the state is, it's basically a city-sized entity or any sort of piece of land that is deemed a separate entity from the nation that it resides in. It has its own laws, its own political system, its own system of finance, its own system of governance. And there's three areas of the entire planet that are nation states within the state. One of those is the Vatican City. One of those is the City of London. Not London the city of London, which is a mile square area inside London. And then you have Washington DC in the US. All three of those are considered nation states within a nation state. All three of those are hubs for each aspect of what I've just said, of the Trinity. I'm not going to tell you which ones, actually. I want to, which one covers which aspect. I'm going to leave you to write that down in the comments and see how many of you can work it out. I'd be interested to know. I mean, the ones that have listened to me for a while will know this already. They've heard me say this ad nauseum, so we'll just go, I know. Yes, well done, you get a gold star. But it's from these three hubs that they control everything. The system. as this trinity as well, although the father is the head of the household, the father family is the head of the family, essentially they're really all three of those top families that are on the Council of Nine are all the sort of apex in a way, yeah? They operate as one unit, just as a family would, yeah? And it's just that a lot of people can't really get their head around, quite a few people. It's the fact that although they discourage us from following traditional values, from being very traditionalist and operating in a very traditional way with regards to family, they do. They're very much traditionalist in the way that they think, which is bizarre for some people to understand, but it's true. The way they operate this show is anything but, obviously. The shenanigans that they go up to, but they are all very family oriented. And I don't know if this was something that we've always had. And always thought that always had this sort of mentality, but I do know that since since 1920, after the Pisces took everything, and in some ways re-established the natural order. I do know that the traditionalist values sort of became very much something that they stuck to from 1920. And I think this is to do with the way that the Pisces family was sort of founded. So the Pisces are the descendants of Louis XVI. His infant child was smuggled out of France after the French Revolution to England, of all places, to his mortal enemy, George. It shows you how tight these royal families are. Even though they pose as enemies, they will still do you a solid. You know what I mean? Yeah. And George IV looked after little Louis for 20 years. Him and his bodyguard, who was actually called Daniel Pisces, whose name Louis took when they moved to America when he was 19 years old. There's actually two lines of Pisces, and not a lot of people know. There's two lines. One of them is derived from his bodyguard. The other one is Louis. They did this deliberately because when he got to America, it wasn't long after the Revolution. There was still a lot of French living in the US, especially around the Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Carolina area, that sort of areas. And if they had found out who Louis was, they would have killed him immediately on sight. So Louis took on Daniel's name and called himself Daniel Pisces, and this created two lines, and it basically muddies the waters whenever you're trying to trace their bloodlines back. And it doesn't help you. The bodyguard's line swaps the names with every birth between Bowles and Picer, which, like I said, really doesn't help. So you get a lot of this dual lineages running concurrently with each other has led to some very misdirected information from filtering into the steerings. This is why this was done, deliberately to do it, to cause people to follow false leads, to go down avenues of research that lead to a dead end. One of which was something that David Icke published a long while ago, when he briefly touched on the Picers and then never did again. And this was Eleanor Picer. Now, again, if you followed me for a while, you'll know that Eleanor Picer was from the bodyguard line, and she married a Rothschild. Not for very long, mind you. A Rothschild affiliate, which was John D. Ellis. And he likely thought that he was marrying into the Picer line as well, and he wasn't. Lewis Cass Picer, who was the last Picer patriarch that we were allowed to know of, had 3 daughters, Una, Io, and Pearl. And he also had a son that tragically died when it was an infant. All 3 of these women married into very wealthy families, some of them. But one of them in particular did a bit of moving around. The first husband died, and so she left the US to another nation, met someone, fell in love, married them, and then another bloodline was born. Now, why is this? Why am I telling you this? Well, with these families at the top, it's traditional that the first male heir, or the firstborn male, receives the inheritance, and then they disseminate that inheritance between the rest of the family. LCP, Lewis Cass Picer, died without a male heir, and so his fortune, his wealth, which is essentially everything, for reasons that I sort of gave last time, but we'll get into again in a future episode. But it was held in trust. And it was held in trust until the first actual male heir was born. And there wasn't one. For quite some time, not until the 70s. That male heir is walking around now. And many of you will not have any idea who they are, who they actually are. You'll know them by another name. But you won't know that their lineage is Picer lineage. That they inherited LCP's fortune and became the patriarch of the Pisces family from that point on. Before you ask, yes, I do know who they are. I've left countless clues. I'm not going to say it outright. But there are clues when you know where to look. The whole mentality behind the Pisces family is far more dangerous than people think. We'll get into the history of their family because it's tied integrally with all the rest in the next episode. But if you've listened to me already, you'll already know where it stems from. So I'll give you one more and you can go and have a look for yourself before we start that episode, which will be the next episode. We'll cover the 3 pillars in a bit more detail and also the history of the system as it is now, which began with Charlemagne. And the reasons for why it began with Charlemagne. And I warn you now, this series is going to get very strange. The reason why Charlemagne is important is because his bloodline was nothing. Anyway, like, share, subscribe.